It's said that back in its heyday, the University of Nebraska football team would begin with the coach taking the team into the center of the field and having them all look up at the big N, which was on the stadium wall. And he would say, "Gentlemen, that N stands for knowledge." Welcome, this is Thomas Adams. Now that joke was meant to introduce us to natural law, which is the desire for human endeavor to connect to an ideal imprinted in our surroundings. Let's turn from knowledge to nature, and from football to our founding. The laws of nature and nature's God is a phrase that is found within the Declaration of Independence. And within that phrase, we see the continuum of two approaches to natural law theory and natural law ethics. First, the laws of nature. In the movie Gods and Generals, the figure of Joshua Chamberlain, as portrayed by Jeff Daniels, is introduced in a classroom setting where, teaching about natural religion, he tells his students that freedom needs laws, that freedom and law are natural, and their connection is natural. Natural in the world around us, and natural in terms of our guidelines. After a moment, one of his students turns to him and says, "Professor, if that is true, then why is it that sometimes laws can be used to limit freedom?" The time frame of the movie is during the Civil War and during the slavery crisis. And this extreme example gives us an avenue into one of the main thinkers of natural law. The figure of Cicero lived during the ancient Roman Republic at its end. And he looked at what was going on within the field of vision and wanted to realize that something was amiss. Now, for him to do that, he needed natural law theory. In fact, he needed to have to impart natural law so that a great tyranny would not occur. The tyranny of Julius Caesar. And Julius Caesar for him represented something very unnatural, an unnatural ambition that was going to upset the delicate balance that was found within that ancient Roman society. Moreover, he wanted to make sure that the laws of nature were pursued even to the point of his own sacrificial death. Cicero and his natural law ethic inspired others for countless generations. It was in reading Cicero that St. Augustine was put on the path, put on the teleological endeavor to first philosophical and then theological insight. Now, what Augustine does is he takes the worldview of Cicero, stoically, philosophically understood, and he tries to frame that world in terms of a dynamic between fallen and height, between sin and grace. Now, this is important because it provides a link from Cicero's natural law to the natural law philosophy and approach of St. Thomas Aquinas. When we think of natural law today, it's impossible to limit the influence that was given by the great scholastic. St. Thomas Aquinas takes the sin and grace worldview of his predecessor, St. Augustine, and tries to elevate it, as he did in his famous retort to his contemporary, St. Bonaventure, in terms of how we are to take the pure waters of philosophy and elevate them to a higher level of theological existence, taking water and turning it into wine. St. Thomas Aquinas saw that nature is raised to a higher level through grace. And by this graced understanding, we have a better notion of the natural world around us, and by extension, how we are to employ natural laws. Aquinas' view is different than Cicero's. For Aquinas, the world around us is shaped by a transcendent divinity, by God Almighty. The world is shaped the way that a director cinematically shapes the movie worldview. For Cicero, natural law was within a contained system of harmony. For Aquinas, natural law are the divine dictates benevolently bestowed by an all-encompassing intelligibility. The continuum here between the laws of nature, as espoused by Cicero, and nature's God, as espoused by Thomas Aquinas, can give us a context for that famous phrase from the Declaration of Independence, as well as give us a relevant context for how we can prescribe natural law within our own lives. No matter if we see the world through more of a stoic, philosophical lens with a secular understanding to try to achieve human greatness, or if we see the world through more of a synthetic, and by that bringing together both that which is natural and that which is beyond, and more of a theological understanding in which we see the signature of a divine intelligence giving us the pathways of which we are to follow ethically. Natural law ethics can be a guidepost for us to see the power of potential, as well as to see a harmony of understanding between the beauty which is found around us and a potential blessedness for that which is in store. Thank you.